one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. I'll ask the court treasurer to call the roll.
Barnes. Bradley. Here. Hastings.
Here.
Lynch. Pistol.
Here.
Ward.
Here.
This time I'll entertain a motion second to approve the agenda as presented.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call.
Bradley. Yes. Hastings.
Yes.
Pistol.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Also have the minutes of July 9th meeting and also monthly financials. I'll entertain a motion second to approve those as presented.
I'll make the motion, we approve them.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? I'll ask for a roll call.
Bradley.
Yes.
Hastings.
Yes.
Pistol.
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Brings us down to the airport commission. Don't have anyone here speak on that tonight. I talked to Dan Clinton today. We have two major things going, two grants in action. One is a 100 by 100 hangar down here. I think they've started on that or about to. Will Dawson's hangar. And of course the one, they've broken ground. They're talking about moving a fuel tank. The other thing is the runway lighting, LED, and the beacon, and replace that and raise that a little bit. It's a $120,000 grant, it's fully funded, and I think they're going to break ground and start on that in early September. So that's all I had on the airport. Which brings us to animal control. Lori Treat called me today. I'll let Tim Pike, you go ahead and give your report.
Yeah, I took 8 calls in the city for last month, picked up 1 dog and 2 cats. We've been full the biggest part of the month. Lori sent me a message the other day that they'd shipped some to Massachusetts, so we should have a few empty pens right now. The dog that bit the little boy is out of state now. It went on that shipment to Massachusetts.
Okay. Thank you. Any questions for Officer Pike? Thank you. Tim, appreciate it. Following up with Lori, she was coming, she's, I think, in Guy on a farm call, so, but she reiterated kind of what you said. She has 25 dogs in-house, 2 dogs in foster a home, 12 cats are in-house, 10 dogs are transported Saturday, and 2 more will be transported in early September. So that's kind of where that stands with the animal shelter. Thanks a lot. Any questions on that? I think everything's rolling on pretty good. I think the pumps are working and facilities are being maintained, so I'm grateful for that. Brings us down to the fire department report. I'm going to fill in for that too. I haven't done it all. DL's out of pocket this evening. His report, I believe he sent to you. I will go over it. He had one mutual aid call last month with Allred. He helped with an 18-wheeler fire on 16. Had a Jeep run over a gas meter on Douglas Lane. They got that taken care of. A false alarm at the Clinton Elementary and a false alarm at the hospital, which a false alarm is a good problem, I guess. Called for the jaws of life on the 65 North wreck where there were 2 fatalities. And then after that he had a meeting for those working the wreck, because that takes a pretty big emotional toll on everybody, not just family, but the workers. Saw in the paper they had a rescue for the high or the bluff, whatever they call that, vertical incline. They had that, but also resolved an issue with the radio repeater with Van Buren County. You talked about that with the water tower. Basically, they moved it for him, and they just moved it over 4 feet, and they're okay with it. We're okay with it, so that kind of got taken care of. The other thing was the ladder truck is still at the EVS, Emergency Vehicle Service in Conway. Don't know how much downtime it'll be. Don't know for sure how much the cost is going to be. Kind of waiting for an estimate on that. I think it was with hydraulics. But that's all I have for the fire department report. I'd answer any questions if I could, but that was pretty straightforward from Chief Webb. This brings us down to Parks and Street Department. Charles Wilson.
Everything's looking pretty good at the park. We cut down a couple more trees today. Thought we was gonna get a break on the grass, but this rain keeps rolling in about the time, so it's still nice and green.
Yeah.
And our rally's coming up Is everybody still aboard with shutting down the park? We're gonna close the north end of it to bikes
Yeah,
only.
that's a week from Saturday,
Yes.
and yeah, we talked about that. You're gonna bring them in the north end, motorcycle traffic only.
Bring them right in there, yep. And we have limited car parking. We can probably get in, we can probably park 25 cars, 30,
Right.
pretty comfortable. A lot of it's gonna be for our vendors
Right,
and all the barbecue cook-off people. We'll have to have all them places to park close by.
yeah, we mentioned that in our weekly report on that. Now, you still don't know a number,
Had no idea.
well, that's,
Who knows? I
Yeah.
mean, I've got a lot of calls today. I mean, I got 4 or 5 today that said they've had rooms booked for a while, so.
right. Well, I talked to Mountain View, and they're optimistic, cautiously. They do their music every week, but he said it has been down, but people are coming, they're not putting in benches, and I know you've been walking through.
And we're not putting benches in. We're gonna scatter everybody out. The vendors are gonna be scattered out.
Temps at the entry and
Sir?
temperature.
Yes,
Yeah,
we got.
and
a lady
masks
coming
if
in.
somebody don't have one.
She's coming in, and we got masks. We'll have multiple sanitation stations set up. We'll have fire extinguishers set out for the bikes on post. I mean, just in case. I mean, we're doing a lot of things these other rallies don't do, but I
Right.
just want everybody to have a good time and feel safe and come back next year.
Well, I hope it goes well. I know it's, always be optimistic. Streets, yeah, I kind of jinxed you on the deal. I said you were happy with the dry weather. You caught up on your mowing.
But
Sorry.
it brought the river up,
Yeah.
so the ones that's camping, we've got, I think, 10 that's already reserved, so on the tent camp, so that'll give them a place to swim. And one of them that had a spot at a motel, we told him about the river, and he was like, really? So, I mean,
Right.
there's plenty of places to go swimming, plenty of stuff to do, but people just gotta get out and go do it.
Street, well, we'll talk about that. I want to have you come back in on that street cutting bond ordinance, maybe talk a little bit about that. I'll discuss that at the proper time, but I know up around school, it's about time for school to start back up, so we'll have to
Yeah, we got
weed
some
all
patching.
that. and-
Patching, actually, we need to be doing, Will needs to be doing patching next week,
Yeah,
really.
on the, especially by Miss Allen's there, where we had the water fixed and then it wasn't fixed, and,
Yeah, a lot of them need to be fixed next week if we could get to them,
right,
so, but
yeah, I want to put something in there.
anybody
Anything
wants
else?
to volunteer,
Yeah.
give me a call. I'll let you volunteer.
Is gas company fixing theirs back now?
Yes, they've
All
done a really good job. I mean, they brought in a packer and done a real good job with it.
Like it should be, huh?
That's serious, and they come back, it's pretty smooth.
That's great.
So, they're doing a good job patching theirs back
I
up.
think they're communicating a lot better already, even before we get this ordinance revamped,
Yeah.
but.
Yeah, and it's not to hurt anybody or do anything, it's just to make them do a better job before they leave.
Sure. Well, I'll talk about it here in a minute. Also, the bond, the amount of the bond, that was a concern, and then the designee, who decides the elevation, probably needs to be somebody other than me in a drive-by, Okay, anything for police, I'm sorry, for Parks and Rec and Street? Thank you. That does bring us to Chief John Willoughby, Police Department report.
Just lay down where I can talk. Well, we had a pretty eventful month last month. We had 103 calls for service. We did 105 property checks. We worked 7 accidents. One of those was 65 North, the one where we had the 2 fatalities. We had a little meeting, me and the officer that worked that wreck with them and everything, and he's pretty good with everything, so he's doing good. We wrote 61 citations, 9 warnings. We did 5 search warrants. Got a bunch of stolen items back on those search warrants, and took about 42 grams of meth off the streets on one of them. A couple of our trucks went down. They had to have alternators. So what we did, we just bought the alternators and we put them on ourselves. So saved the city a little money by putting it on ourselves.
You said you're gonna do that, so I'm glad.
Yeah. Yeah, it just, stuff happens. One of them was the canine truck, so he has to have the air going for that dog, so. But, other than that, guys, that's all I've got. for
Okay, I think,
This month. What do you-
Yeah, I wanted to just bring one thing up while John was standing up here. This past month, I started looking at some of our ordinance related to liquor. I think everyone knows that most likely we're on the ballot in November. There's going to be a question on whether we're going to remain wet or remain dry or go wet as far as alcohol possession and sales. There are 3 ordinances that are currently in our code related to possession, sale, and transportation of liquor, and they've been on the books since the 40s. If we become a wet county, if the voters choose for this to be a wet county, these ordinances would present a prescription from that activity inside the city. I just want to bring it to your attention so that you're considering that as you go forward. So if you wanted to do something about that, we could put an ordinance on for a reading in September. If you want to repeal it or if you want to change it or do anything, you put an ordinance on for reading in September, and it would be set up for a 3rd reading and a passage in November after the election. So I thought this was a good time now to show it to you and for you to think about that and what you want to do. If you'll tell me what you want to do, I'll draft or at least what you want to consider, I'll draft an ordinance on that. But mostly, I just think it's important that you be thinking about that because obviously there's a potential for that to change in November.
And I think it's been in the 40s since the last.
Yeah, and
they've ever.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to-
citation on that, we don't.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to bring it up while the chief was up here, because he and I discussed it, and I asked him if this is something that we enforce. And I thought I knew the answer, and he confirmed that they don't cite from these ordinances, and the reason they don't is because there are state laws that already prescribe this activity in a dry county. So again, this is something that we're not currently enforcing, these ordinances, because they're already basically preempted by state law. So just something to think about.
What about the tax?
Yeah, and that was something I thought I'd bring up when Tim was up here and talk. But yeah, that's another thing. We've got this tax on private clubs. I think it was adopted by accident when we did our municipal code back in the beginning of the year. I think it just sort of showed up by accident. Tim researched it, and we've never found an ordinance where we actually passed an ordinance putting this on the books, except for the code that we passed. So, this was a service.
Is it legal? I mean, since we passed the code, or does that have to have an ordinance
Well,
to go with it?
I don't like it because the intent of that ordinance was to codify existing law, not to create new law. And so if it's something that you want to do, my advice would be, so there's not a challenge down the road, my advice would be to pass it by separate ordinance to make it so that it was not just, because it was a 500-page code, and we thought there was a possibility there might be some unintended consequences, but the intent of you passing that code was just to codify law, not to make new law. So my advice would be to do a separate ordinance.
Okay.
So it could look just like this, it just need to be a separate ordinance.
yeah, that's something if you want to get on the next deal, just
Yeah,
call the city attorney and say,
We're not currently enforcing this ordinance.
Yeah.
Because nobody knew it was there until it was pointed out. So,
Back to the other, if it happens in November, we don't really have enough time, especially to get 3 readings without a special reading or
Well,
emergency.
and that was why I had that idea that if we were going to do something, you might want to do it for the next meeting. You can put it on for a reading in September, read it in October, and then a 3rd reading in November. You can pass it for that 3rd reading in November, and that's going to come a week and a half after the election. So you'll know what the results of the election were, what the will of the voters was, and then at that point, you can make a decision on what you
Now,
want to do.
now the other choice on it, or the other thought of it is, if it was something in the 40s, it's already kind of superseded with the other state laws? Is
Yeah.
it even needed?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think there's something to be said that it might be an obsolete ordinance as is, because again, we're a dry county. If we go wet, it might not be, and it might be a question that we need to ask. You know, right now, it's superseded by state law that applies to dry counties, and we're a dry county. So if we become a wet county, then we're gonna have a question as to whether we have prohibited this activity within the city limits of Clinton.
Chad, do you know if the initiative passes in November, when does it go into effect?
I don't know the answer to that.
I would assume after the
Yeah, I don't know.
legislation, I don't know.
I don't know. the
I just thought it'd be after first year and you do your three, yeah.
Yeah, you know, if you look at, I don't really, I know it's taken a long time to do, for instance, the marijuana, when the marijuana amendment was passed, it took a long time to implement that. You go through a state agency to go through those processes, so I don't think the second week of November is gonna be, it's gonna be in effect, so I don't think you waiting until November is gonna create a problem.
It's like the TAP grant, long time.
Doesn't, I mean, you know, there's only, say, a couple of approvals in the county anyway if it happens, and it's gonna take a process to probably do that, so we're really talking probably a year or 6 months.
Yeah, and
But it's speculation.
Yeah, and I would say, you know, the big thing that I see that would be, that you would be prohibiting, or at least cause a bit of a wrench if you don't do anything with these ordinances, is placement of a package store inside city limits. And so that's, you know, and again, I'm not saying this ordinance says you can't do it, well, it does, but I'm not, you know, there might be questions as to whether it's enforceable after this vote happens, but certainly going to make an appearance that you cannot legally cite a package store in here, so it might create a problem. Well, however you perceive that, I don't know if I'm going to call it a problem or not, but it might create a situation where someone could not locate a package store inside the city.
And if it happens, I would hope that we would wanna get it in the city.
So, well, and actually not even a package store, actually Walmart or Cash Saver or any other business that would be able to sell beer and wine, so.
So if we just wanted to rescind these ordinances, would we have to do 3 readings? Or?
Just, yeah, I mean, any general ordinance requires, or you can dispense, you don't have to go through 3 readings. There's a procedure, you can always dispense with the second and third reading and pass it. Yeah, I mean, now, if it's a, hey, I want to repeal this, if that's the will of the council, that's easy. That's a 1-page ordinance, says we repeal these provisions.
Well, that's my thought of checking to see if it's already superseded and it's a 80-year-old law that, we got a lot of those laws that need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
I think one of them was over possession and all that, and that's already been.
Yeah, the possession, like some of these are very clearly, like the possession law, my recommendation is, I mean, if we don't repeal it, we're never going to enforce it because there's a state law that already applies. The other questions are maybe, you know, again, it might be effective, it might not, if we become a wet territory.
I recommend we just repeal those. What everybody else thinks. It looks like it'd be the easiest thing to do.
And if somebody asks me to prepare something, I'll prepare something for the next meeting if somebody asks me to, any council member.
I'm asking you, let's do that.
Okay, or just a repeal.
Well, I would like to come by and talk to you more about this tax, so we.
Well, yeah, the tax, that's a separate question and is not gonna necessarily affect, they're really 2 discrete issues, although they're both related to alcohol.
I mean, I definitely think I'm for having a wet county, but I'm for a wet county for having tax dollars generated, so I'm definitely for the tax staying on, if it's, you know, for having it, yeah. So I'll probably come by and visit with you.
That's fine, yeah.
About that.
Okay, anyone else? John, thank you.
You bet.
Brings us down to the water department. Fort Will Hinchy's not here, he had a family event. He had talked to me earlier in the week about it. He did send you a copy of the report. I will read that. August 13th, ladies and gentlemen, the chemical cost for actual chemicals used for July was $9,166.19. The total gallons pumped 60,200,000, and the total gallons treated were 73,801,000. This came out to be approximately 12 cents for chemicals per 1,000 gallons of treated water. The water loss for the period ending in July 2020 was 32.576%. Denard's water loss was at 23.654%, and Burnt Ridge water's loss was at 39.591%. The closing date for the auto read meter project is August 27, 2020. City Council has approved notice to proceed to the supplier and the contractor. They're estimating the first meters could be in the ground by October, and they think it'll take 5 to 6 months to complete. Warren Noble with CWBs would like to start the process to get bonds for the 10-year improvement process. At the moment, the interest rates are below 3%. And I saw Warren today, and I said, yeah, go ahead and start the preliminary stuff if it's something that's gonna be down low, and then we'll talk to the lender or whoever about that. If you have any questions, give Will a call. Basically, that 12 cents a thousand, he said, is 4 cents lower than this time last year, treated. 6 months, I read that, to complete the project, starting with the meters, and it's 3% right now, below 3%. Might be a good time to look at that seriously. That's about all I have for that. I have a copy of this if anybody wants to take a picture of it and look at it after the meeting.
What did he say the water loss is?
Do what?
What did he say the water loss is?
Overall was 30,
It had gone down at Denard.
yeah, 23 at Denard, 32.576, and that is with Clinton. It calculates Burnt Ridge and Denard's in there. I'm not sure how that figure actually is arrived at. Any water that's not paid for is considered loss. And one of the questions I ask is the auto read meter, will that, and he said other places have seen substantial stopping in water loss. Usually it's because of meter, they have a leak at the house.
Do you know if that's about what the chemical runs every month?
No, I don't.
Okay,
I
that's
don't.
all right. I'll ask him.
I asked him that, is that high? He said, no, that's not necessary, and that's
Seems
what
like
he
we've had
said.
a lot of water leaks this month.
There's been a lot of water
There's
leaks.
been a lot of water leaks, so I was
Well,
kind of
it's
curious
the
to
time
see
of year.
what our number was this month.
Yeah.
And
So-
that's pretty low for
But-
treated water. I mean, I've had neighbors that's been, I mean, like every time you turn around, there's water leak.
I asked about it, I mean, and it makes sense that the ground is dry, was dry,
Mm-hmm.
so the pipes don't have any give. They don't have any place to go, so they break. That's one reason why this time of
They're
year.
having a miserable time on 65 North,
Yeah.
and have had. That's been a tough gig. Maybe they're getting a better handle on it, I hope so.
Did they
Not
hire
just
anybody?
65 North, I know Honey Hills and other places.
Did they hire anybody? The water department was looking to hire 2 people?
I don't know
Don't know.
who they have.
Hadn't heard.
I don't know.
What about Honey Hill?
Do what?
What about Honey Hill?
I know they were out of water.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
For 9 hours.
We had a leak.
I wasn't out.
Hey, he wasn't.
Dina
He
keeps
said the
backing
other
over
end.
the
It's
line.
leaking still, I told them to.
Jeff's got a well.
I saw it just
My
running
water
down
comes
the
off.
Oh,
hall.
it's still leaking right
Hill,
now.
Is it?
yeah.
It's not true. It's a lie.
Trying to keep the grass ready for the street department.
Anything else on
They
the
don't know
water?
that, so.
The mayor has really filled you in on the water, so there you go. Brings us down to zoning department, Tim Clark.
All right. Right now, we've got several remodels going on. Some of this I've already told you about. Beaver's Dentistry, Hope Medical, Keith Coward is doing a residential remodel up by KFC. Justin Bentloff is doing a small remodel on that block building right across from, what is that?
Oh, Wilmington building?
Yeah.
Wilmington.
Forest Services. The new construction, the mini storages, they've been installing the heat and air this week. After they get that finished, all they've got to do is put up a fence, and so they should be good to go. Issued the past month was 3 new business permits 5 electrical, 3 fence, 2 HVAC, 1 vendor permit, and 1 citation. And I may, next meeting, I may bring in a list of all we've had a lot of small cleanups in town, little stuff. And between now and the next meeting, y'all will see and notice some much larger cleanups that take excavation equipment and stuff like that. So between now and then, y'all will probably notice some of these that have been very visible for a long time. So that's pretty much all I got.
Who's putting up the little signs, saying like, is it Master Gardeners that said, we've noticed that, I saw one up, across from KFC, they put these little signs up that they clean up their yard and things. Have you seen that?
I think that is Master.
Is it Master Gardeners? Which I think that's a good idea. They used to do it a long time ago. Like they'd showcase a yard for the month or something.
It is.
Is it Master Gardener? Your club, Dina?
Well, it's Spanish County Master Garden.
Yeah.
Have,
Okay.
you heard anything about Baker Medical, Baker Eye? I seen the sign up, it says something about coming in September.
Yeah, they're putting in a clinic up here.
Do they have to
I saw
pull
that.
permit?
We
or
went
get
down there
anything
last
to-
week.
Well, are we talking about over there, the bottom floor of where Clinton Drug is? No.
No, right.
No, that's Arkansas, I can't.
Where they put the new sign?
The Baker, the old building,
Yeah,
They haven't
where
said
it was,
The tax
it was the
place.
tax
Tax
place, and now I guess it's
Boulevard
changed.
stoplight,
Yeah,
straight
but,
across, Baker Eye.
No, they haven't said anything to me about it.
They used to be there before, didn't they?
Yeah.
Yes,
They
but
were,
they are putting one in.
they were
We done
supposed
there
to have
last
a
week.
building, a new building, right across from Walmart. For a while, they were trying to buy that Snowden land, so I guess they're gonna go back in there. But it was a couple of years ago, they were talking about building.
They haven't said anything to me about it.
I just didn't know if this existing building, they may just be changing signage and don't need any remodel work, so I don't never know.
I'll check it out. They hadn't said anything to me.
It's on the corner where the guy dances at Textile.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
guy.
that's gone.
They're gone?
Yeah, I got them where they're at, but they're not in that building anymore.
Should have stopped.
COVID took them away.
Anything else for zoning? The street, I will have, ask you to send Charles in on the street cut, but I saw that you're, on the permit, we talked about, you've got a pretty good start on that. I'm gonna talk about that in here, but that'd be done probably next week or something. Definitely be ready
Oh,
for
yeah.
the next meeting.
Oh, yeah.
And I've got under third reading, I want to just read what we've come up, what were the changes that we have, it's kind of a new ordinance, so I'll just do one reading on that. I really don't want to do anything till people can see the permit.
Okay.
It's like, here's what it actually is. I was trying to put too much stuff in the ordinance, which you didn't need. It makes sense if you just get it in the permit, so. Okay, anything else for Tim Clark? If you would you
Charles? Can we send Charles back in?
Yeah. Yeah, I may or may not need, I didn't know he was outside, yeah. Brings us down to old business. The first is the street cut bond. I had third reading, but I've sent, my spelling is atrocious if you've seen designee and stuff like that. I gave you a little punch list of the ordinance that Chad's come up with. I'm gonna read that ordinance. But basically, we just made a more detailed permit process, is what that comes down to. So I entertain a motion and a second to place this on the first reading.
Make a motion.
I'll second it.
Second. I'll ask for any other discussion, and I'll ask for a roll call.
Bradley,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Pistol,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna read this, pretty brief, and then I'll give you the synopsis of what's different about this. Ordinance number 2020-blank, an ordinance of the city of Clinton, Arkansas to increase the bond required for street excavation, whereas the city of Clinton currently requires a bond of the sum of $150 for street excavation permits, and whereas the current bond is not adequate for its purpose of compensating the city should the permittee fail to repair the city streets, now therefore be ordained by the City Council of Clinton, Arkansas, Section 1, Title 9, Chapter 9.08 of the Code Ordinance of the City of Clinton, Arkansas is hereby amended to read as follows. Chapter 9.08, Excavations and Alterations. Sections 9.0801, Permit required for excavation. 02, Permit application. 03, Application review. 04, Issuance. 05, Inspection. 06, Emergency excavation approval. 07, Penalty. And 08, Remedies not exclusive. The first one, 9.0801, the permit required for excavations. No person, firm, or corporation shall cut into, tunnel under, or in any manner disturb the surface of any city street, alley, sidewalk, or right-of-way without first applying for and obtaining from the recorder treasurer or his or her designee a written permit to do so, which shall be dated and shall give the name and the address of the person to whom the permit is granted, and the location of the place where the city, street, alley, sidewalk, or right-of-way is to be cut into, tunneled under, and the purpose for which said permit is granted. 9.08.02, application. The application for any permit required under this chapter shall be submitted to the recorder treasurer or his or her designee and shall contain at a minimum of the following. A, the name, mailing address, telephone number of the applicant. B, identity and contact information for any subcontractor performing excavation. C, location of excavation. D, dimensions of excavation. E, estimated project length. And F, description of required excavation of the city right-of-way. 0.03, application review. The application will be reviewed by the mayor and his or her designee for the approval or disapproval. If approved, the mayor or his or her designee will prescribe the following conditions. The materials and installation specifications required to restore the excavated site to its original condition in both material composition and function, and a restoration bond not to exceed $2,000. The restoration bond shall be determined by calculating the cost to restore the excavated site to its original condition in both material composition and function. 04, issuance. Upon the approval of the application and posting of the restoration bond, the recorder treasurer or his or her designee shall issue a permit. The permit shall be displayed at the excavation site during the pendency of the excavation project. 05, inspection. Upon the completion of the excavation project, the mayor or his or her designee shall inspect the excavated site to confirm that the conditions of the permit have been satisfied and that the excavated site has been returned to its original condition in both material composition and function. Upon satisfactory inspection, the restoration bond shall be returned to the applicant. 06, emergency excavation approval. The mayor or his or her designee may approve commencement of an excavation activity without first obtaining a permit upon the demonstration that the immediate damage or property will occur unless the excavation commences immediately. Excavation activity will not only be approved to the extent necessary to prevent such immediate damage, will only be approved. Application as required under this chapter shall be submitted the next business day following the emergency excavation approval. If water line breaks on Saturday, fix it, then come in Monday. 07, any person, firm, or corporation who shall fail to comply with this ordinance shall be guilty of a violation and shall be subject to a fine not to exceed $500 for the offense. 08, remedies not exclusive. Nothing in this chapter shall be construed to limit the remedies available to the city for damage to any city street, alley, sidewalk, or right-of-way. And finally, Section 2, savings repeal, that all ordinance and parts of ordinance in conflict with this ordinance are replaced to the extent of such conflict. Section 3, survivability, that should any word, sentence, clause, paragraph, or provision of this ordinance be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, the remaining provisions of this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. Basically, his or her designee, it's good to have someone on the street department or the zoning department to look at that and make sure we're in compliance, other than the mayor or, and Dina's recorder treasurer comes up a lot, but ultimately, I think you can talk to her about that. She's financially, it's part of some of her duties, but we want to get the right person to decide the job. O2, you know, does the water department, we just decided not to have any exemptions. And that takes away that. Now, part of that'll come into play under the cost of it. You know, it's something that you can put up a bond, maybe the bond be just left there. No problems. I put up a $500 bond, leave it there, and just keep working off the same bond if there's no problem with that. Job application is very descriptive, A through F on that first page. I think it went from 5 chapter sections to 8. Bond price, it's not excessive. It can be smaller in our permit. I want to have that from a certain amount up, $100, $150, $250, $500. That way you're not just putting some little guy with a small, tying the driveway in, $2,000. I thought that was important. Starting the job and several things. That handout I gave you, restoration of poor construction materials can be charged to the contractor. I think that's in that example permit we had from Russellville. If there's something that really goes wrong, you can sign off, say anything that you tear up, basically you're going to fix. This is kind of working, and once we get the permit, actually complete the actual permit, we have a pretty good permit process, and we're just trying to tie that in and send it. So I'll send that out to you once we get that done first of the week. I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
I mean, it'll make it better. I feel like it'll make it better. Instead of having a whole bunch of busted up, cut up streets and everybody, so right now is just doing whatever, whenever.
Well, I was trying to put too much in the ordinance, and you finally got that through my head. If you put it in the permit, that the street superintendent will determine, because it may be a case of, look, I've talked to you, and I beat this to death, but I want to take all concrete out, but I just want you to leave me 3 inches so I can put whatever material, chip and seal or asphalt or whatever. It might be something to work out with that, other than just locking somebody in, so I'll just put back what was there. Elevation is a big problem, and that's something the street superintendent.
Sealed off.
Yeah.
So we are going to take out the, no exceptions at all, not the city water department.
Right,
We're gonna have to
right.
contact him first.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is, section 2 gonna be like, where are we gonna designate that at, the bond?
What now?
The old one was 150, so what are we setting this one at, section 2?
Oh, I wanted to have, it's not to exceed 2,000. I want to have $100, whatever the permit looks like, 150, 250, and that's to be determined by him. So if it's just a small guy putting a driveway in that has nothing to do with elevation or anything, you just want the concrete to be nice and square and look good, and he wants to take a chop saw and tie it in. Yeah, I don't.
Who's gonna make that decision? But you're gonna make
The mayor
that decision if what,
or his or
depending
her
on what they
designee.
need done.
Yeah, that'd
It's
be
gonna
up to
the
the street
cost.
superintendent,
So
who needs
it's-
to make the decision.
So it's not gonna be across, it's gonna be,
No.
Joe Blow gets 150 and you get 2,000. I mean, depending on the job, I just wanna be fair,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
well,
saying, like if we put
job
it in
will dictate
ordinance.
If you're out here, you're gonna put in a tile, and instead of somebody just throwing on in and having 3 inches of gravel up on the highway and it keeps washing off, they'll have to, I mean, we'll say, well, okay, it's gonna be $200 for the permit. Once you get it to approval, you get $200 back.
Yeah, and then
But
you're
this is
gone.
what we expect you to do, and this is how we expect it to be tied in. So we don't have gravel washing out in the streets, or we don't have it raking off the sides of the road.
So the smallest, I mean, so we're gonna make this an ordinance, so the smallest would probably be 150 starting off that bond and then going up depending on how big the
How
project
much
is.
they're gonna, if they're gonna cut plumb across the road, then it's gonna be $2,000.
$2,000, yeah.
And that way, that just reinsures that it's gonna be put back, and we're not gonna have to go up there every 2 or 3 weeks and try to work on it.
Probably had 150 and we was locked into that. And they said, well, just keep 150.
So we started out, we were gonna do just a flat 2,000, and now you're saying not to exceed.
Yeah, that's me, and I wanna put that in the permit, because I think $2,000 is excessive if I'm making a little bitty cut for, it's just hard to say, I need a bond from you, Jeff.
Right.
And I'll just reiterate, I mean, it is tied to actual cost based on the calculation of whoever it is doing the permit approval. So there's not gonna be any, hey, this guy's great, we've known him forever and he's good for it,
Right.
sort of thing like that. It's gonna be what it's gonna be, the cost to actually put this back into shape that it needs to be put in if that person doesn't do it. So there's not gonna be any, good neighbor policies or anything like that, so.
That's what I was
So
trying,
you
that's
would
what
be-
I was,
yeah.
that's what I was getting at, like,
There
if
is
we're
a
gonna write an
definition.
ordinance, is it gonna be, guidelines? to follow?
Everybody needs to
It's gonna
check
go
in so we know what's
Yeah.
going on.
Right, right.
And there'll be a price.
Oh, I'm for it, I mean, I
Oh,
think
no,
it's
no,
a
no,
great
I'm
thing,
not-
I was
I
just
don't
like,
think that
who's
you're
gonna
not.
make that decision, and how is that
Uh,
calculation gonna be made?
Right, because Charles said, look, 150 won't fix a tile, it's
Right.
2,000,
Yeah.
and he's right.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll have a deal if it's something more than that, if there's, we can
Is
go.
there,
both.
is there a way we can word this to where it's just gonna be what it's gonna cost based on the project, like you're saying, instead of not to exceed 2,000?
Yeah, a
Because
certain percentage.
5 years from now, $2,000
Right.
might not cover it,
Well, it is there. It's determined by calculating the cost to restore the excavated site to its original condition in both material composition and function. So it's in the definition of the restoration bond.
I'm saying the not to exceed part. What
Not to
if 5 years
exceed.
from now, we can't do that for $2,000?
Well, I think that's something
We might have to look
you
at it
can
year by
always,
year.
yeah, I mean, you can always just amend it as you go.
Well,
I think the
I
not to
don't think
exceed-
we have that many cuts, on our streets for,
Well, I mean, I'm just looking at inflation right now. Inflation's happening right now, so I'm just saying it might not be.
Right.
And then the other thing is, we talked about that, with that possibility, like, what if there's a project that comes around, it's like, hey, we wanna do something, and street superintendent looks at it and is like, oh my gosh, what you're talking about doing is gonna cost $10,000
Yeah.
to restore, just don't approve it.
Okay.
You just don't approve, and then at that point, and actually, that was what we talked, if it's over $2,000, that's actually within the discretionary authority that you've given the mayor to work within the budget anyway,
Right.
without going to you for approval. So it makes sense to limit it at that, because again, they're making a decision that could impact the city in that amount. So if there's a project that's gonna be more than $2,000, it might be smarter to come to you anyway and ask for specific.
that's what we've got, the
That's good.
2,000. And if it's that big, if there's fiber optic, we're not we'd come to you and say, here's what we got. It's it's $20,000. It's gonna be, it's pretty dangerous cutting here. That was the intent, and mainly just get the permit, really.
Are we
We're-
responsible for fiber optics if they cut it on the city right away? That's not, huh?
I think the contractor would be, but at some point, it's gotta be.
Yeah.
Main thing is to know who's digging where.
Yeah, in the place where they're digging, I have no idea. I mean, unless I drive the streets every day, I have no idea who's done what, where, or when, or why, or how, or nothing.
Part of our permit, I think, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
Dwight, and I think Tim has it, the one call, the 811, that's part of our permit, which is it's hard to miss that, It's hard not to know that, but especially if it's part of the permit, and you sign off on it.
Yeah, and this will give us the subcontractors. I mean, some contractor comes in and bids on a job, like they did on this phone line they put in. Well, they subcontracted it out, and then when you go to them, oh, it's not our job, we're subcontractor, we have no idea what we're talking about. So then you gotta figure out who the main contractor was. So this gets the subcontractor and the main contractor both written down, so we know exactly who to call and get things fixed back to where they're supposed to be.
So we'll come back with the application next meeting, before the next meeting, we'll send it out to you. If you have any things you want to add to it or whatever.
So we're gonna go ahead and just read this 3 different times, 3 different meetings? Is that what you want?
I could do it 2 times the next meeting. We just don't have the permit completed.
Okay.
I kept adding this or that, but I gave you that punch list, pay no attention to the spelling. But basically, this is how it differs from the other one. And it's got on the permit, up to, and it's a whole lot of money, probably y'all need to know, so-and-so's fixing to dig over there, and he might could really tear something up. So somebody would call you and say, hey, the cable's out, everything's out, and something blew up. Anything? That's all I have, thanks.
Anybody else got anything for
I have
streets?
some, not for streets, but I wanna go back to parks if I may. Tell me a little bit about Rumble on the River, like, use this time to tell us how long it's gonna be, how long of a trail it's gonna be, and are you gonna have people up there following them, or they're just free to go, or,
What do you mean?
like when they get on their bicycles?
Bicycles?
Their motorcycles.
They'll come into the city park. So how you get in, we're gonna try to hold them at the city park as much as we can. And we'll have motorcycle games for them to play, we'll have bands going, everything's, I mean, it's just gonna kind of be like Archie Fest, but for adults and no rides, except for motorcycles. They're gonna do the Parade of Pirates down 65B, turn on Mall Street, turn back on Main, go right up Main, right back to 65B, back around the stoplight, back into the park. Nothing real major, just.
There's a list of events, I think we sent that
Yeah,
out.
it's a complete schedule. If you want to schedule, get with me. Of course, you got to schedule now, so.
Okay, good.
We'll have a barbecue cook-off contest Saturday. Have quite a few vendors. I mean, it's gonna be,
What's the cost to get in?
it's $15 a person, 1 day pass, 25, 2 day pass. We'll hold the park open till midnight, both nights, and then we'll be out there Friday night cleaning everything up, and then Saturday night after everybody leaves, cleaning everything up. We've got our own dumpsters hired. We'll be paying all the trash fees. We'll be paying everything. I mean, that's
And you got the hot air balloons coming?
hot air balloon, weather permitting. You'll be able to ride the hot air balloon. I think it's $20. It'll go up. And that'll probably be a pretty good trip because you'll
How
be
high
able
is
to
it
see
gonna
the
go?
airport and.
How high is that balloon gonna go?
They
I don't know.
probably.
We done checked the wheel on it.
All the way to the end of the rope.
So, yeah, we done
Yeah.
talked to the airport about it.
It's not in the pattern though, right? That's,
I don't know. It's something we discussed it with
I would think.
Jason Hayes, and Jason mentioned it, and I guess they're supposed to adapt for it.
oh, okay.
So it's, everything was took care of. We've been working on this for several months. We're into it pretty heavy, so.
And so what will the money go for?
The money will, after we get what we've got into it, will be attributed to Meals on Wheels, the Children's Advocacy, and Lori Treat up there at the animal shelter.
Good.
And we're gonna try to bank enough money to do it next year. So I mean, right now, we've sold everything we've got and pawned everything we could pawn, and we're into it pretty deep, so we hope it turns out great. We're just hoping we get the money back. But we've got 3 or 4 charities there that William and I both really like, and that's what we're gonna see to it, that we give them some money.
I think you got a pretty good layout out there,
Yeah.
spread it out good, and you put some thought into it.
Patterson's gonna be there. He's gonna be making money for his K-9. He's out of expense on all his dog food and medical bills and all that, so he's gonna be there, so he's gonna try to make some money to help cover some of his K-9 costs.
Don't take that balloon high up to see my yard.
And like I said, anybody that has bikers welcome, any business have bikers welcome signs up and stuff, they'll be covered with people. I mean, they'll come into your business and spend some money. I mean, these aren't just thugs, these are doctors and lawyers and.
Mountain View, we said it earlier, is they're this
Yeah,
weekend.
that'll tell us kinda, with their crowd, will kinda tell us a little bit about how our crowd may be.
Yeah, they talk like it's been down, the music on the square has been down, but
Last year they had 16,000 bikes. We're gonna make that rally. We're gonna be passing out flyers there this weekend, so.
yeah, it takes a while to build
You've been
something.
approved by the state.
We were approved by the state. We'll be taking temperatures coming in the gate, and that's reason, or really main reason for closing down the park is if we got people coming in on the backside, how can we take the temperature? But we gotta get them where they can come in. So, and like I said, I really don't see anybody want to walk their dog with 2,000 motorcycles down there rolling around it. I mean, they got a
Awesome.
better dog than I've got, so.
Well, this is your first year. Mountain View's been doing it 16 years.
Yeah, it's a learning. I mean, it'll be a good show
We
regardless.
seem to have a pretty good plan, but there's always
Yeah.
chinks in the armor.
We'll improve it. So, sure.
Well, it's a good year to start something like this with
Yeah.
all these extra deals added, but y'all.
Yeah, I think there's only 2 bike rallies in Arkansas this year anyway.
Okay. Anything else? Thank you. Brings us to old business number 2, the nuisance code amendment relating to inoperable vehicles. I think we've talked about that a lot. I know we have, I want to make sure we get it right, so I'm just gonna enter it, since this is what we've come up with, this is like our first reading, so I'm gonna read that. This time I'll entertain a motion second to put on the first reading.
I'll make a motion to put it on the first
I'll
reading.
second it.
Second, any discussion? I'll ask for a vote, and then I'll read it.
Bradley,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Pistol,
Yes.
Ward.
Yes.
An ordinance of the City of Clinton, Arkansas to amend the provisions in the nuisance code relating to inoperable vehicles, whereas the City of Clinton has passed a nuisance ordinance in February 2020, and whereas the provisions of the nuisance code relating to inoperable vehicles may have caused confusion to the citizens of the City of Clinton, and whereas the municipal code needs to be amended to eliminate this confusion, now therefore it be ordained by the City Council of the City of Clinton, Arkansas, Section 1, Title 5, Chapter 5.04.05 of the Code Ordinances of the City of Clinton, Arkansas, is hereby amended to read as follows. 5.0405, inoperable or wrecked motor vehicles and any parts thereof. The accumulation of inoperable or wrecked motor vehicles in the city is degrading to the environment, property values, and the aesthetic beauty of the city. Thus, the only location where an inoperable or wrecked motor vehicle, any parts thereof, may be parked, kept, or stored within the city is in an approved storage area on the property that is properly zoned and permitted for that purpose. The parking, keeping, or storing of inoperable or wrecked motor vehicles or any parts thereof at any other location is unauthorized area thereon in the city is declared to be a nuisance and may be cited for a violation. A, exceptions. Nothing in this ordinance shall be construed so as to apply to, number 1, any motor vehicle that can be started and moved under its own power on demand. Number 2, antique automobiles, provided the vehicle has an antique license as required by law. Number 3, temporary disabled motor vehicles, provided that they are restored to running condition within 30 days from the date of disablement. Number 4, vehicles stored out of the site in a permanent enclosed building. Number 5, owner or owners who operate a motor vehicle sales operation from that real property, and the said owner or owners have a current state license to operate same from that location. Number 6, owner or owners of a motor vehicle repair shop and possess a current business license to operate as such from the City of Clinton. B, definition of inoperable vehicle. A vehicle is inoperable as used in this section when one or more of the following conditions exist. Number 1, the motor is inoperative. Number 2, any of the major operating components are missing or in such damaged condition so as to make the motor vehicle inoperable or not legal to operate on the highway. Number 3, the motor vehicle is not registered and does not have a current license from any state. And C, removal of any inoperable motor vehicle. If an owner or an occupant of the property within the city shall neglect or refuse to remove an inoperable motor vehicle or bring vehicle into compliance with this ordinance, a code enforcement officer will affix a notice of violation to the vehicle for a period of no less than 30 days, which shall state that the vehicle is a nuisance and order the property owner, occupant, or whoever has an interest in a vehicle to remove it from the property. If after 30 days' notice the vehicle is not removed, code enforcement or city police are authorized to issue citations and/or have the vehicle towed away and stored at the violator's expense. Failure to pay the towing and storage charges will result in the sale of said vehicle. Section 2, savings and repeal, that all ordinance or any parts of the ordinance in conflict with this ordinance are repealed to the extent of such conflict. Section 3, survivability, that should any word, sentence, clause, paragraph, or provision of this ordinance be held to be invalid or unconstitutional, the remaining provisions of this ordinance shall remain in full force and effect. And that's the first reading of that. Thank you for that. Brings us to new business. Resolution, I just need a motion and a second. This is a flood risk assessment.
I make a motion.
Okay, what we have here, motion and second.
I'll second it.
Second, this is for, I'll read this letter, it's pretty short. Motion and second, while it's pending, I did want to read this. Letter from the Natural Resources, Arkansas Department of Agriculture through FEMA. Updated floodplain mapping for the city of Clinton is what it's regarding. Letter was sent to me, dear Mayor McCormick, and this one we talked about. We are in phase 2 of getting maps and getting accurate maps, and I think it will definitely be to our advantage. Since 2011, the Natural Resource Division of Arkansas Department of Agriculture, NRD, has partnered with the Federal Emergency Management Agency, FEMA, in the Risk Map Initiative. The focus of this effort is develop of improved and updated floodplain maps to guide development and protect property and people from flood risk. In line with these goals, the Natural Resource Division, NRD, is seeking partnership with the City of Clinton to provide a more accurate assessment of the flood risk along the entirety of the currently mapped floodplain. As you are well aware, the current floodplain maps do not accurately portray the flood elevations nor the extent of the floodplain. Partnership in Phase 2, risk identification and assessment of the Risk Map Initiative would lead to a more accurate and informative regulatory product, allowing more meaningful implementation of floodplain development regulations and NFIP insurance requirements. The Phase 2 process is funded through a FEMA grant to the NRD that provides 75% of the cost. The additional 25% is being requested by FEMA from the City of Clinton. The total cost for the City Clinton flood risk assessment is $252,252. FEMA and the state are providing $249,853.20. We're asking for a cash match contribution of $62,463 from your community to support this effort. Any contribution committed will not be required until the summer of 2021 and may be provided in installments. One immediate benefit to Clinton is a more accurate assessment of the high-risk floodplain along Highway 65 and accompanying flood elevations for floods ranging from the 10-year to 500-year flood. This will greatly assist property owners with issuance rating and verifying whether or not their home or property is at high risk for flooding. It will keep your floodplain administrator and it will help your floodplain administrator in providing flood elevation information to property owners, developers, and surveyors. NRD will also host a flood risk reviewing meeting in the City of Clinton. This meeting will provide the community, technical staff, and decision makers an opportunity to review the engineered analysis and study the results prepared under Phase 2. The focus of this meeting is to ensure the community has time and information to provide their input prior to the preparation of the updated flood insurance rate maps. The partnership and exchange of data between FEMA and the NRD and the City of Clinton is vital to the success in identifying flood risk and needs that may impact local citizens. We know that funding on the local level is limited. This funding, however, will lead to large returns in the future. We hope that you will join us in this partnership. Please confirm your community's contribution by fax or email as a sample commitment letter is attached to you for use. We look forward to working with you. to reduce the risk associated with flooding and increase your community's long-term resiliency. If you have any questions or need additional information, please contact me at 501-682-3969 or Whitney Montague at arkansas.gov, respectful Whit Montague. She's the coordinator for FEMA. And I'd sent her a letter saying, before we commit that, we're just going to commit with this resolution to put it in the budget for the next year's budget, to say we're interested in this. So we've kind of been waiting on this. I think it's a good thing. We've had a motion and a second. I'll read the resolution. Resolution to partner with the Arkansas Department of Agriculture for a flood risk assessment. Whereas the Natural Resource Division of Arkansas Department of Agriculture is seeking to partner with the City of Clinton to provide a more accurate assessment of flood risk along the entirety of the currently mapped floodplain in the city, and whereas the City of Clinton flood risk assessment is funded with a FEMA grant that provides 75% of the cost, the City of Clinton's cash match contribution is $62,463, which will not be required until the summer of 2021. Now therefore be truly resolved by the City Council of the City of Clinton, Arkansas, Section 1, that the city commits to such a cash contribution of up to $62,463 towards the City of Clinton flood risk assessment. Said funds will be appropriated in the 2021 budget. Section 2, that the mayor is authorized and directed to confirm the city's contribution with the Arkansas Department of Agriculture. I have a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion we adopt the
I'll second it.
resolution.
We have that. Any other comments? Not, I'll call for a roll call.
Bradley,
Yes.
Hastings,
Yes.
Pistol,
Yes.
Ward,
Yes.
2020-09.
Thank you. Brings us down to public comments. Not, you have mayor's comments. I'll be brief. Appreciate your patience. We discussed about the wet dry vote, talked about the rumble. Said we're going over to Mountain View, some of us, this weekend. The census, a lot of people's talked to me about the census. Dixie Carter's been calling me with the Rotary. This weekend, my wife and I are going to go out and talk to some of the Hispanic community. We already have, but I really want to start trying to get a force to go out, and you know, it's voluntary, and they have workers going door to door. But anyone you know, in groups of people, we'll set a meeting time next week, and you can come and talk about it. Love to just target people that we need to. We need to get our count. Need an accurate count. Very bad. Very important. I talked to somebody about a budget meeting, maybe September the 14th, maybe the next week, 21st. We have time for that. And on the TAP grant, I'm getting a call tomorrow from the state. I think they're going to say, go for it. It's at sidewalk. Most of it's on the school property. I'm going to be at the school board meeting Monday night. We're going to talk about that. Would like to say, get well to Sean Sykes. Kenny Willock's doing a lot better. I talked to him today, and Bob Gott, the picture taker. Also, Jimmy Lindsay turned 70 the other day. So happy birthday, Jimmy. My daughter turns 18 tomorrow, so I'm happy about that. Happy birthday, Ellie. Finally, tonight, had a good meeting. I always want to end on a high note. We've had a pretty good meeting, but this is a really good thing. A couple of weeks ago, I got a call from a lady named Becky Walker from Mansfield. She's a recorder treasurer, like Dina Malone is. And she had said she had nominated her for Recorder Treasurer of the Year. Clinton is extremely fortunate to have Dina Malone, a recorder treasurer, the lady that come here and talked before and says, here's what they do. They record history, it's got to be accurate, and they keep up with our money. And Clinton is very fortunate to have Dina Malone. Municipal League every year, they give an award to the very best one in the state, and it's voted on by your peers. No higher honor you can get. When you go into the Hall of Fame, you're put in there by people and people that are in the Hall of Fame. When somebody that does the same thing that you do say, you're the very best of all of us, That is a big deal. And I do appreciate the Municipal League, Mark Hayes, and all the recorder treasurers, because they really do the work. Anyone can get elected, but a recorder treasurer has to be competent. And Dina, when she got elected, I'd see her down at, all hours of the night. She's honest. She's extremely capable, extremely honest, extremely reliable. Helped me more than probably anyone in any job that I've ever had, because I can tell you, I needed the help and still do. She's blunt. I like that. You don't have to guess what she's thinking. But that is so valuable to have someone who can do that. We have good meetings here when somebody says, what's this mean? What's that? Man, you need to question things. Dina, not necessarily question, she's like, you're not doing that, you can't do that, we're not doing that. Dina said no. She's Swartz and Thompson, she can't help it. Best thing about her, 2 words, she's passionate about what she does, and her greatest quality is she's compassionate. I joke with her, I said, man, you've got an exoskeleton. You're hard on the outside, but she's soft on the inside, and she cares about people, and she cares about the city's money. And I'm telling you, she is a great, great asset to the city of Clinton. As I said, she's helped me more than anybody. I want this city to know what the state knows, how blessed we are, and we really and truly are. She carries a pretty high name around her fellow co-workers at Municipal League. She's always out there. I could go on and on and on. I want to say something and kind of get under her skin, but I do that without even trying. But tonight, she never has any findings. She doesn't do anything improper, and she won't let you do it. And man, that's something that a city can be proud of. So a big thank you to the Municipal League, Mark Hayes and all his crew for having this, the continuing education that she always does, and all the recorder treasurers who voted for her. Because man, this is a great day for us, and you got that right. You know her as well as I know her. It's important to have someone that has the public's confidence like she does. I certainly have it. Dina, I'll quit being sappy, but I do thank all of y'all, and thanks for helping the city and keeping us afloat. You can get away with somebody like me when you got somebody like that, and that's no joke. I'm going to turn it over, and I'll let y'all introduce yourselves.
Well, thank you, Mayor. My name is Denise Johnston. I'm the city clerk of Batesville and the president of our association. And your mayor has been fabulous through this to help hide us and work through how we're going to surprise
Flying on a
you.
plane today.
Yeah. He's been
I made all that up,
amazing.
I lied, but I do it all the time.
He could not say enough about you. He was thrilled when we talked to him about it. So thank you, Mayor, for
Thank
the
y'all.
kind words for Dina. And we all knew it. You were preaching to the choir, but Dina, yes, congratulations.
Do I need to put my mask on?
Yeah, well, here we do it, there we go. This is strange times. We're doing Facebook Live because normally we get to present this at the Municipal League in front of 1,000 people. We hate it that we can't do this, but we said, we're going to go present it to her at a council meeting, put it on Facebook Live so you'll have that recording. And then we got to get a picture, don't let me forget to get a picture and send it to the Municipal League, and they will be announcing it Friday at the awards banquet and put a picture up and say some wonderful things about you. But y'all will know, but I'll say it for the Facebook Live. I think 7 years you've been, eighth year, she's been clerk for 8 years, and that, to me, that's kind of a short amount of time. She's already got her CMC, her Arkansas, Certified Arkansas Municipal Clerk, because she dedicates learning. She knows that it's valuable to learn her job, and so every chance she gets, she goes for continuing education. She goes to Fayetteville, she goes to the district meetings, and after only being a clerk for 1 year, actually hosted a district meeting, which I don't know if that's ever been done. I mean, people are too scared to do that, but she jumped right in and did it. She has served, is currently our co-vice president of our association. She's already been treasurer and secretary. She's one of those go-to people. Anytime a clerk needs something, if they know Dina, they know they can call her, and if she can't help them, she'll find someone that can. She's always been just excellent at that. She's, in the notes, just in her community. She's big in the chuck wagon races, which we've been talking about. I hope we can go out to eat after this, because We've got some questions about those Chuck Lorre. So that's very interesting, some of the things we've heard. And with the fair, I know she volunteers, she does lots of volunteer work, and you know that anymore it's hard to find people that want to do anything, but she's more than willing to do it after having worked all day. She still volunteers her time, and that's amazing. Obviously loves her city, and I think, have you lived here all your life? You know, born and raised, so there you go, homegrown. And by the way, your town is beautiful. We've been hid out at Western Sizzlin for 2 hours waiting to get here. And coming back into town, though, the mountains were just gorgeous. This is a beautiful part of the country, and I'm just so glad we got to do this. So that being said, we've got a plaque here, Arkansas City Clerks, Recorders, and Treasurers Association, 2020 ACC RTA Clerk of the Year, Dina Malone, City of Clinton.
Thank you.
So I'm going to have to, we're going to go get some rules. I wish her well. Oh, and Becky was wanting to be here so bad, but she's got that. Whoa, she's got the Corona crud, so. But we said we'd FaceTime with her so she could see it. She wanted to be here so bad, and we wish she could have, but way to go, Becky.
Can you hear us,
Yeah,
Becky?
thanks for, hey, I didn't let the cat out of the bag. That's hard.
So I don't know if we've got several clerks here. We had several other ones that wanted to come, one thing or another, they couldn't. Your mom, your coworker, so any other clerks want to say anything to Dina?
She knows we all love her.
Were you surprised?
Yes, I
Okay.
Becky says congratulations.
Yeah.
Tell her I said we're so proud of you. Yes, I'm very surprised. Thank y'all very much. I appreciate it. It's a very honor to get this, and I appreciate it.
Well, you are very worthy of it. Everybody was thrilled when it came down. We had 3 nominations and this year, so we were pickled pink that you got it. So
Thank you so much.
Good job, Malone.
I want to say thank you to my husband. He's always standing behind me.
yes. And we've got, this is Andrea from Paragould, and Stacy from Cherry Valley, and Kimberly from Cave Springs. Donna is my deputy from Batesville, and of course y'all know the mom and the husband and the other
Alicia.
deputy. Yeah. We had several others that wanted to come. Obviously, Becky, wanted to come. She was just sick about it. But everybody's thrilled, and y'all, everybody, where'd the Facebook go? Did you shut it off?
Your battery died.
My battery died.
You're supposed to come prepared.
Oh, well. Hope everybody watches. We'll put it on Facebook for everybody to watch on, I think it's Friday, that they will announce it, and we're going to send a picture, so, yay!
Now, this is our first state champion for the city. She needs to play softball, though. She's retired.
Okay, so I gotta get my phone back,
Cool.
I gotta get a picture for me.
Tim?
It's
I would like to say one thing, that, you know, when I first started this job, you know, Dana really headed me in the right direction, because I remember vividly walking in the front door, very graciously introducing myself, and she looked right at me and said, "What are you looking at? Get your butt back there and go to work."
I did not.
And the education I've learned has been invaluable. Again, very graciously, 2 or 3 weeks later, I didn't want to think I was a selfish person. So I went to her and I said, "Dana, if somebody buys a permit in cash, I'll be more than happy to split that with you." And the verbal education I got in the next 10 minutes. So I learned a lot. Dana, I'm proud as punch to have you on my staff and you working for me. And your next evaluation, I'm going to put my foot into it.
Thank you, Tim.
Dana makes us count the donations from I can't even touch them.
Oh, no.
And she makes 3 different people count it 2 or 3 different times. And I mean, that's the kind of person we're dealing with here. Her mom's back there. Her mom and dad have always been good. I grew up with her, and
Yes, because when I first started running, my mom took me every day
Yeah.
to go
Knock on doors?
door to
You did a
door.
good job,
She
man.
did.
Done. Really good job.
Between her and Mark.
Well, Clinton is a smart town, if they need to elect you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thank all of y'all. I love you all.
With that, I'll entertain a motion. Anybody else? Okay. I'll entertain a motion, a second to adjourn, and we can, got something for?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion second?
Second.
All in favor, we are standing adjourned. Raise your
Okay.
hand.
I always want to do that at council meeting. Okay, so,
Girls, thank you.
Yeah, all right?
Good.
she texted me and wanted to know who the winner was, and I just ignored her. Thank you so much. And I'm like, I'm just gonna ignore that. Sorry. I won't ever do it again, I promise.
I'm not supposed to hug you, but I'm You would work for them.
You gotta get your pictures.
Of her or with you?
I don't want it. I'm just thinking, let her come And obviously
Well, see, I took some, but I'm just afraid of them, but I don't
yeah, I want her to look at, because what they're planning, and I think if the leg is showing the picture as they talk about it. Yeah, you're fine.